Welcome back. We're now in segment 7.4, and in this segment, we'll be having a brief overview of the process of project appraisal. We will dig into the details of the project appraisal in subsequent segments, but in this segment, we'll see a brief overview of what are the components involved in appraising a term loan proposal. So, when a company approaches bank for the loan, the first thing any banker would look for is the project cost, right? This is the first item that you're interested in, and of course the associated means of finance, what we call as the means of finance. So the company will be having a very good idea of what is this project cost. So every project will be having what is known as the project cost. We'll see what are the components of project cost shortly. But you should understand the project cost is what is known as an estimate, right? The company is the company is expecting that this project is going to cost so and so amount. Now the actual project cost usually will be not equal to the estimate, right? It will be either more or less. Usually it will be on the higher side, right? But the first thing that you have to understand is the project cost is an estimate provided by the company regarding the likely cost to be incurred on this project. It contains various components, as we will see, but that is the point you have to remember at the outset. Now this is how a typical project cost looks like, right? This is the project cost. So a project cost contains of various components, right? What the company is saying is, we are going to this project is going to incur the following expenditure, the following cost for these various items. So for a project, say for example, the company is constructing a power plant, right? A thermal power plant, right? A thermal power plant. So it has to come up in some area, right? Somewhere it has to come up. So there will be a land associated with it. So land, it has to either purchase this land or it has to take it on lease. So this is a cost associated with land. So land is one of the component of project cost. Then on this land, the company has to construct some civil works, right? Building, sheds, various civil structures. So the civil works, buildings and civil works are clubbed under one category. Then we have, of course, the equipment, plant and machinery. This is the major component. For running this thermal power plant, you have to erect a lot of machinery and equipment. So they will be clubbed under plant and machinery. Then furniture and fixtures and others. This is one component. So in major power plant, in major projects, sometimes you require ETP, that is the effluent treatment plants, and also the railway sidings. This is for very large projects to get the raw material or also to ship the finished goods to the either to port, all right, ship the finished goods. So these are in very large projects, but usually furniture and fixture will be clubbed under one head. Then the remaining, these are what you can call as tangible fixed assets, in the sense that you can actually see them. You can actually see them, right? These land, buildings, plant and machinery, furniture, or something like tangible. Then the remaining costs are not tangible, right? They're not tangible, but then they are included in the project cost because they are part of the project, right? They are part of the project. We'll see shortly what are these terms, right? But just for the understanding, just remember that preliminary and pre-operative expenses, provision for contingencies, and margin for working capital, right? These three are known as, are not tangible, but then they are part of the project cost. The detailed discussion we'll be having shortly on each of these items. A very large number of bankers are actually surprised about this component. They're all right with the fixed assets, fixed component. These are something which are all right, and even within this intangible part, they're all right with these two items: preliminary and pre-operative expenses and contingencies. Like, okay, they can be part of project cost, but many are surprised for this margin for working capital. Why it is included in the project cost? At the end of the day, these are all this is the fixed component, right? This is for a term loan. Term loan is actually for it's for creation of fixed assets, right? Then there is another class of credit facility extended by bankers, that is the working capital. This is for meeting the raw material and other working capital for creation of current assets, right? This is a separate finance. So these two are separate. So this fixed assets creation is met by what is known as term loan, and this working capital requirements are met by some OCC and the working capital requirements like PC and all the stuff. So these are distinct. Traditionally, these two are distinct, and you can't use a term loan for working capital purpose, and you can't use a working capital for term loan purpose. At least that is what the intention of the banker is while sanctioning the project. This way is all right, but this shouldn't happen, right? There may be cases where you sanction something called a corporate loan, right? Where maybe the term loan can be used for meeting the working capital margin, but that is an advanced case. Let us not get into it. But usually these two are distinct. So why are we including this particular item is something which is of which creates a lot of confusion to many bankers, right? So this is something which we'll discuss when we come to working capital. In the chapter we'll discuss specifically, right? But for the moment, please understand that this is not working capital. This is margin for working capital. There's a difference here. You will understand the concept when we discuss the working capital in the next chapter. So along with the project cost, a company will also provide what is known as the means of finance. So all right, the company has a let's say 80 crores. This is the project cost, the sum of all these items: land, building, machinery, right, and all these assets. The company has, a company is saying we are going to unless the company is saying to have this project, right, to have this project ready and commissioned, we need 80 crores of funds. So who is going to finance this 80 crores of funds? So this is furnished under what is known as means of finance, right? Means of finance is the sources from which this project cost is going to be met. So this includes equity. This is these two internal accruals. These are the promoters' contribution, as we've seen earlier in chapter 6, right? Then unsecured loans is another component, and term loans from banks. There might be some others. We will not get into it, but usually these are the major items. These the promoter funds. Even unsecured loans usually are considered to be part of promoter funds, right? So then we have the term loan from banks, right? So we are not getting into deep into the individual items of the project cost and the means of finance. This will do in the coming segments. We'll see item by item. What are the points you need to look into when you're looking into each and every item of the project cost: land, building, machinery. What are the points that you need to look into? We are going to discuss in subsequent segments. Similarly, in means of finance, each of these items you're going to discuss in detail. But in this segment, I'm just providing an overview, right? The starting point is the of any project is what is known as the project cost. So project cost, the company will be saying this is the cost which we are expecting to incur for this project, to have this project up and ready and up and running, right, to start the production. This is the funds which we require, that will be provided in the project cost. The item wise breakup, right, the item wise breakup is going to be furnished in the project cost. And how this 100 crores is going to be met, that's going to be provided in the means of finance, right? So the two new terms you have learned: one is the project cost and another is the means of finance. Hope that is clear, right? So when dealing with the term loan proposal, there are some a list of points that you need to get into, right? Don't just think that it's the finance related aspects you need to look into, like DSA and all. The finance part is one part, but there are many aspects that go into appraising a term loan proposal. And term loan proposal is not, appraisal is not complete without all these points. So I'll now provide you a brief overview of what are the points. This segment is all about providing an overview, and we'll get into the details once we get into the case studies. Okay. So these are the key points that you usually have to look into while processing a term loan proposal, right? We'll get into the specific details when we take up a case study, but these are the broad points that a processing officer dealing in a term loan proposal should be looking into. We have something called the installed capacity, right? So I'll briefly tell you what this. I'll briefly tell you about these points. So installed capacity is the maximum capacity that the particular unit can manufacture. For example, if you have a power plant, it's measured in megawatts, right? This could be say a small plant like a 10 megawatts, right? Hydro power plant, small power plant, or 100 megawatts, thermal power plant, or 500 megawatts. So what you're speaking is the maximum capacity, maximum generation of this particular power plant. For example, a steel plant could be having so many tons of output. This is the maximum capacity. Installed capacity is a maximum capacity. So there's a difference between installed capacity and production. So a company could be having installed capacity of 100 tons, but actually it could be producing only 60 tons, right? It's not using the entire available capacity. This could be due to various reasons, such as there is no demand. There is no demand if you produce this entire output of 100 tons. There is no market for it. So therefore you're only producing 60 tons, right? So this is 40 tons is not being used. So some of the things that you have to look into this aspect is if a company doesn't need this 40 tons, I mean, if it is only for a couple of months, the plant is being underutilized, that's all right. But 3-4 years, 5 years, if the company is continuously having a capacity utilization of only 60% or 65%, the company is not using the entire capacity for a number of years. So it means your assessment was wrong. This company, because a lot of cost has gone into constructing this 100 tons plant. Maybe it would have been sufficient if you had constructed 80 tons plant. So there was 20 tons additional cost has gone into this constructing this plant. So additional cost has gone into constructing this additional 20 tons which you are not utilizing. So that is one of the point you need to keep in mind. So installed capacity has got to do with the demand. See, ultimately what is the demand you're expecting, what is the production you're planning to achieve. Okay, then there are some location advantages issues which you need to consider. Why is the plan being set up in that particular area? Though there can be various reasons for this, right? For example, the government might be encouraging units to set up units in this particular backward area or remote areas, right? So the government might be providing some incentives, so that could be an area. Or proximity to raw materials could be one area. There are many steel plants in the belt of that Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Andhra, that area, right, where you have this proximity to raw material could be one reason. Proximity to the market could be another. Proximity to market in the sense that the place where you're planning to sell the product, maybe you are closer to that market, so maybe the transportation cost will be less in sending the finished goods from the factory to the market. So the various reasons, right? When you look into the locational advantage, why you are setting up a plant in a particular area, right? Then there is a track record of promoters. Of course, this we discuss under the managerial appraisal, right? So track record of promoters. So under this point, what we are basically looking is whether the promoters have the business acumen to run this unit successfully, right? Are they engaged in this similar line of activity in the past, or if they are new to this line of activity, what is the assurance? What is the confidence that they are providing us that they can run the unit? Maybe they have recruited some uh, some production people, some people related to the production who knows this particular industry. So what is the basically the track record of the promoters you are looking into. Then management again, here we look into the credibility, right? The credit worthiness, how financially sound they are, whether they can bring the required funds, right? Are they honest people? What is the market opinion of this promoter? So these are the issues we look at the management. Besides, of course, the ability to run the unit, right? Technical feasibility, this we discussed on the TV report, right? These two, what we are basically seeing is whether the project is technically feasible, right? So the various points, in fact, all of these points come under the technical feasibility, right? But basically, we look at the technology employed in this production process. So the production process could be there could be competing technologies for a manufacturing of the same product. For example, in manufacture for aluminium, we have we have a variety of methods, but usually the Hall Hallart process is the standard approach followed. So what you're basically looking at technical feasibility is whether the process employed is standard, whether the machinery which the company is proposing to purchase are of standard quality, and the supplies are of good supplies are standard companies, right? So then we have the industry scenario. This is discussed under industry appraisal. So a company doesn't operate in isolation; it operates in an environment. So you need to know what is the broad scenario, the broad outlook, right, of this. What is the outlook of this particular industry? Is it positive? There could be some industries that are on the upside. Some are actually coming down. You don't know. So this actually is provided by your bank risk management department, right? They usually come out with frequently, maybe monthly or 3 months, once in 3 months. They'll come out with these reports. They'll be giving the overall health of certain sectors, so that the credit officers can take a view. They can restrict the exposure to certain sectors, or if your bank doesn't do that, you can always access reports like CRISIL reports, right? There you can get idea of the industry scenario of particular sector. They'll of course be always sensitive sectors such as capital market and real estate, where usually the lending is restricted. But even in case of other sectors, based on a particular period of time which you're talking about, there will be some ups and downs. For example, if you remember a couple of years back, paper industry was not that great, right? Paper industry was in a bit wasn't that doing well. So based on a particular period of time, some industries will be doing well. So you need to keep track of those aspects also. Then the details of proposed building. So this is again what is the construction that is required for this particular project, right? So what is the area we are talking about? What is the area? What are the various structures required? What is the cost? And the civil estimate actually encompasses all these factors. This is prepared by a engineer. Usually, every bank will be having a panel of engineers, approved panel of engineers. So, the company approaching a particular bank should get the estimate done by that particular panel, any one of the approved panel engineers, right? So then we'll also be looking at the reasonability of the estimate. So just because an engineer has submitted a civil estimate, like the cost of construction of for this project, the cost of construction is 25 crores. The various structures, he gives a detailed breakup. So that doesn't mean you are going to accept as it is, but you should also see whether there is any item that is not necessary, or where the rate assumed is higher than the average. So you need to also look into those aspects. Similarly in the case of machinery, you should also get the what are the machine, what the list of machine they are planning to use, what is the purpose of each machine, who's the supplier they're planning to purchase from, and the quotation from the supplier. So this will be the basis for our arrive for the cost. Will be accepting the cost provided by the supplier, right? And also the reasonability of the cost. Just because a quotation is given, don't accept it blindly. This we discussed earlier in an earlier segment. We discussed a lot of frauds can happen. So this is a basis for us, but also we have to compare with them. We should have a great officer should be having a good idea, of the good domain knowledge of the a particular industry where he's sanctioning the loans, right? For example, if you are sanctioning loan to a steel firm, you should be having an overall idea of what are the various dynamics of the steel industry. You should know what are the raw materials. You should know what is the cost of setting up a steel plant average. I'm not speaking of the specific details, but so what are the machines that are normally used? Because this you can do if you have done some similar steel proposals in the past. You can draw upon those experiences, or else within your own bank or from your neighboring zones, you can always get this information. Power connection, of course, in a power project. Project power is a very important factor. You can't start production unless you get a power connection. So this is something we have to also always look into, what is the status of the power connection. Maybe at the time of sanctioning of the loan, maybe the power connection is not yet obtained because the construction is still going on. So maybe the approval is not yet obtained, but the power companies usually give what is known as a feasibility certificate even before the connection is given. They'll say whether it is feasible to extend power line to this particular area. So that is something you have to look into. Availability of labor. Sometimes the projects are located in very remote areas. So how is the labor going to be? How is the labor going to be? How is the labor going to be sent there? Right. Those are the issues you have to look into. Sometimes some jobs require very skilled labor. So unskilled laborers you can get from the neighboring villages, but sometimes you need skilled laborers. You have to transport them from some specific place that will be entailing a additional cost. Okay, so those are some of the points you need to look into. Availability of water is required, one for the industrial purpose and also for the domestic consumption purpose by the employees, right? Employees, that is one part, but the major part could be you might be requiring some a lot of water for the industrial purpose. Say for example, in industries where they use this ore and coal, sometimes they have to wash this coal. They require a lot of bulk water. So what is the availability of water? What are the sources of water you are looking into? That could be some of the points will be so sources of raw materials is very important. What are the raw materials required for this project, and where are you going to get them, right? You can't be having usually the units are located in a close proximity to the raw material source, so that the transportation cost will be reduced. So the issues that you have to look into here is the location of the plant, the transportation, how you're going to transport, the cost involved, and also you have to look at the in case of some critical raw materials, you have to look at the linkage, whether it is possible to have any long-term linkages. Sometimes there will be these tie-ups. A steel plant, for example, may have some linkages with linkage with particular coal mine for regular supply of coal. So these sort of linkages will mitigate any risk. Usually will mitigate any risk in supply of the raw material, right? This long-term linkages are something which banks usually see as a positive point in case of large projects. Okay, the manufacturing process, of course, a very key process, a very key point. What is the process involved in this manufacturing of this particular product? Are there any alternate processes involved? What is the company's basis for selecting this particular process, right? And what is the cost involved in this particular process? Storage facilities, yes, required both for the raw material and the finished goods. Are the products, all the raw material and the finished goods, safe in this storage facilities? Are they sufficient area wise, and are they safe? So in case of storage, you also look into the insurance comes into picture, right? Security comes into picture. Yeah, you have to employ some security personnel. You have to take insurance for these goods to avoid damage due to theft and fire and various other accidents. So those are some of the issues in storage facilities. Coming to marketing and distribution aspects, ultimately the aim of the company is to not just production, but sale of the goods, right? Once the goods are manufactured, they have to be sold in the market. So what are the marketing arrangements you have? Like what is the sales force? What is the market you're planning to sell to? So what is the arrangement you have, right? So those are the points you have to look into. Then the list of statutory approvals, very important. So every project will be having specifically a list of approvals to be obtained from the competent authorities. Usually pollution is a very important approval, but there will be other approvals, right? Like for example, you start with plan approval, right? Plan approval is very important approval. This is usually given by the gram panchayat, right? If it is in a rural area. Then there will be other approvals, like inspector of factories have to give inspector of factories has to give an approval. There will be various approvals specific to each industry. They will be having approvals in areas where there is in some areas in some areas Navy has to give the permission for some high rise construction. So there are some various approvals required specific to each industry. You have to get a list of all approvals required for this project and see what is the present status of each approval. So when you are pricing a project, you should be getting a list of all approvals. These are the approvals that are required. So what is the status of each project? The company need not obtain every approval by the time at the time of sanction. The project is still under construction, so by the time the project commences, everything should be ready. So what is the status, and when is the final approval expected in each approval? That is something you have to look into. Implementation schedule, of course, very important. Companies provide what is known as the implementation schedule. That means starting from today, what is the plan of progress here the company is expecting. So for example, purchase of land, so maybe Jan. Development, this land has to be cleaned and cleared, some development process, maybe it will take 1 month time, maybe in February. Then there will be some starting of foundations for the civil works, maybe in March to it will take some, say for example 3 months, March, April, May, right? March to May. Then the actual civil works construction, maybe it will take around 6 months, so maybe starting from June, July, August, September, October, November. So then they'll say when are the machinery going to be ordered, ordering of machinery, and then when is the arrival of machinery, right? Erection of machinery, right? Then when are the trial runs expected, when is the final commercial production date? So there will be various events we are major landmark events that we are interested in when the company, and the implementation schedule will be providing the plan of this is the expected plan of progress. So these are the dates we are expecting. So the construction is going to start on so and so date. It's going to take so much time. The machinery is going to be ordered so and so. It's going to arrive at the plant at so and so date. Its erection is going to take so and so time. Trial run so and so time. Finally, the COD, that is the commercial operation date, is so and so. So this is the plan of progress that is the company is expecting. And implementation schedule is very important from the point of view of NPS, because as per because there are RBI guidelines that says if the actual COD, what we refer to as DCCO, right? Date of commencement of commercial operations. If the actual DCCO is more than 6 months, then the envisaged DCCO. So as per RBI guidelines, you have to classify it as a NPS. So you have to be, of course, this is for non-infrastructure projects. Infrastructure projects, you have additional time, but the point is you have to be very careful with the implementation schedule provided by the company, especially the DCCO envisaged, right, in the project report. Then the present stage of implementation is important. Present stage and what is the amount spent so far on the project. So when the company comes to you for sanction of a loan, the company must have already done some work, right? Some preliminary starting work has already done on the project. So what is the status? What is the project implementation at this stage? And how much of the promoters funds? How much are the promoters pumped into the project? Their own funds. How much they were spent? So this is what you're interested. This is something which you should be tracking when they come to the sanction. When they come to the bank for sanction, already some work already must have been done when they come to you, right? And some of their margin must already have been committed into. So expected date of commercial operations we discussed. DCCO is very important. Project cost and means of finance. This will be discussing in detail, and the eligibility, right? So we'll be looking at what is the project cost, item wise breakup, what is the and how the company is planning to meet this project cost, what are the item wise means of finance, and what is the eligibility. Company might say our project cost is 75 crores, you give us 70 crores maybe, but that is not, maybe the company is not eligible for 70 crores because the banks have their own margin requirements. So as per the bank policy, what is the margin requirement for each item? What is the margin for land? What is the margin for land and building? What is the margin for machinery? And finally, what is the total eligible loan amount? This is something which will be calculating shortly. So you should also be aware that banks don't sanction whatever amount asked by the companies. The banks will be having their own guidelines as to what is the maximum loan, what is the loan eligibility, right, in each case. Then there is something known as the drawdown schedule. Drawdown schedule is the loan availment. So a loan is not sanctioned in one day. For a 100 crores project, if your bank is sanctioning 75 crores, 75 crores, it's not going to disperse on day one. Right? Company is not going to be given the 75 crores in one phase. There will be a series of drawdowns, right? Based on the progress, based on the actual progress on the ground, based on the construction, based on the actual progress of the project, will be releasing this in phases. So what is the drawdown schedule that is expected, right? That is expected. Then of course the financial projections are very important. What is the projected profitability statement? What is the projected balance sheet? Projected cash flow statements? That is those are important. Okay, very important, which we'll be dealing in detail. Commercial profitability, right? So ultimately the loan is going to be repaid out of the profits earned by the project. So you should be establishing the viability, long-term viability of the project. Security and margin, of course. Security and margin, of course, we discuss, very important. Repayment structure and holiday period, very important. What is the repayment stipulated by the banks? What is the, say for example, this loan has to be repaid in 7 years, maybe in quarterly installments, in which case it will be 28 quarterly installments, or monthly, in which case it will be 84 monthly installments. So what is the repayment structure that is stipulated by the bank? What is the holiday period? Holiday period is the initial moratorium period. So a company will not, this project will not be generating profits immediately. So there will be a period during which the construction is going on. For the construction, the company needs some fund and has borrowed a term loan. So the generation of funds will not be happening in this period. So once the project goes live and the production starts, there will be generation of profit. So till this time the company cannot repay your loan. So there will be some holiday period. So what is the holiday period that is required for this particular project, and what is the holiday period that can be allowed as per bank policy? You have to look into. DSCR sensitivity analysis, of course, very important. DSCR, as we have seen, is the comfort factor to the bankers. So a company might be generating a profit of 10 crores, but if the repayment every year the company has to repay 12 crores of all loans put together, that's not a healthy scenario, because the DSCR is less than 1. The profit generated by the company, we speak of cash profit here, the profit generated by the company is not sufficient to service the debt, that is the interest and installments. So DSCR is very important. Usually there will be a norm for each bank, maybe 1.5 or 1.75. So it has to satisfy the DSCR norm. Then we discussed about sensitivity analysis. So this is also important. So sensitivity analysis. So these two will be discussing in detail later. DSCR and sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis is what happens if some of the assumptions are altered. Say for example, you have prepared this projected financials based on some assumptions. Sale rate. What is the sale price you have assumed? So many rupees per ton. So what if this is changed? What if this comes down? So how will the viability of the project be affected? This is what we discussed in sensitivity analysis. Various parameters, not just sale price. Various other factors will alter the assumptions and see how the project viability is affected. Okay. So DSL sensitivity analysis are very important. Break-even point, of course, break-even point and IRR. Once again, very important. The break-even point tells us what is the minimum amount of sales, right? Minimum amount of sales you have to make in order to break even. In order to break even in the sense that is a position of no profit, no loss. So beyond this point, once you cross this point, you will be making profit. But if you manufacture, if you sell below this point, you will be incurring losses. That we'll discuss in detail later. Again, IRR, advanced concept, not usually used in some banks, but it's a critical component in project appraisal. We'll be discussing IRR. It's related to the broad area of discounted cash flow analysis that we'll discuss later. So these are the major items you'll actually look into. So these are the broad areas you will be looking into when processing a term loan proposal. We have just given a very broad overview. We will discuss the details later. But most of the information you have to understand is given by the company. The project report will be furnishing a lot of information. For example, all this initial points which are discussed, right? The installed capacity and all these are available from the project report. The location advantages, the company will be telling why it has chosen this particular location. The promoter's profile will be given. TV report will be submitted. In this scenario, they will be given. Of course, they will be given, but you should also get from your own sources all these costs, civil estimate, quotations, right? This labor, everything the company will be providing in the project report. But not that you will be taking them as it is, but the initial input you'll be getting from the customers. This is all this manufacturing process, the marketing arrangements, the approvals, the status, everything will be project cost, right? Amount spent, everything will be given by the company. Your job is to price, right? To see whether they are correct or not. So with this we come to the end of the segment. In the next segment we'll start the discussion on project cost. So we'll see in detail what are the individual components that come into the project cost, right? That will be in segment 7.5. See you then.